Path of Exiles 2 First Expansion Dawn of the Hunt released last week, and as always, with large gaming events, there's some negative vibes, bro. In this video I will go over my first impression, how my build developed over many hours, and compare it to what the community screamed into the void. The void being Reddit. Afterwards, I will leave you with a few tidbits that might help you in the game if you are struggling. Let's get started. I played through the campaign live on my Twitch stream for the entire weekend. I'm usually not interested in the hot new thing, but I had to choose the Huntress. Early on, I experimented with a few skills and really didn't want the whole combo playstyle that is very common in Path of Exile 2. Turns out, Whirlwind and Twister are pretty darn good, but more on that later. I chose Explosive Spear and Storm Lance for my main damage, which was okay. Nothing fast, but also not 10-minute long Chamandra fights like some other players were mentioning. In Act 2 and 3 in Cruel difficulty, I quickly fell behind in terms of damage, or even defense. I think it was a lack of life on my gear, which of course made me die more often, or made me feel like I was close to death all the time. Because of that, bosses like Blackjaw and Doriani easily killed me multiple times. Other than that, bosses were not a major hurdle. The biggest hurdle for me was probably dealing with the onslaught of enemies in my face. Pretty much all the time. But this was also my own mistake. I could have used the Explosive Spear plus Storm Lance setup for bossing and use Lightning Spear to shoot into enemy faces, but I didn't. I was lazy and tried to minimize the button inputs a bit too much. This also comes from a health perspective because my wrists and hands aren't as good as they were a few years ago. Overall, it took me about 16 hours and 40 deaths to get through the story, which is definitely faster than my very first playthrough back in December, but still far slower than with my Lightning Arrow and Lightning Rod Orb of Storm setup. But you know, that was busted AF, let's be honest. At the end of my last stream on Sunday, I got into the endgame with 1.3k life, no energy shield, and over 70% evasion. If you open the dictionary and search for glass cannon, you would see a picture of my face. It was a bit of a rough experience going through some maps, especially with my basic playstyle and lower defense. I had to play slower and took on every monster pack with some focus, or else I would eat their attacks and die. But I knew this playstyle can't go on for very long. I would burn out because it wasn't really for me. It wasn't really fun having to just slowly play, and the whole, power fantasy in an RPG wasn't really there, at least not with Explosive Spear and Stormlance. I also said on stream that I will play through the story like an SSF character, and only after the whole thing I will use trade and follow a guide, which I then did offline and over the past few days. Being lost when it comes to builds, as always, here comes Lolcohol to the rescue with his Twister build. Charge up Whirlwind by using it thrice, press Barrage before or after it, and shoot out a bunch of Twisters. It was like night and day switching from my shitty playstyle to the Whirlwind build. I played it after the patch came out, which fixed the bug with the Twister skill, which previously dealt way more damage than intended. Some people see that as a nerf, but that's not intended as a nerf. The result of fixing the bug resulted in a nerf. It's different. Still, the combo and playstyle was really solid. Until I started playing it for many more hours, and I got really sick of the playstyle again. Even if it was powerful, it's just didn't feel good. And now comes Fubgun to the rescue. As always, his Lightning Spear Amazon build really pushed me forward when it came to going past tier 10 maps, and so far, it's ramping. I had upgraded my build with a 1 Divine Fist Spear already, so I could use that right away, and it worked really well. I was able to map somewhat comfortably in tier 6 maps without generating frenzy charges. After farming a bit more, I was able to buy myself the Kitoko's current jeweled gloves, as Fubgun says in his guide is mandatory. This makes lightning damage electrocute, which works with the aura Combat Frenzy, and thus I can generate frenzy charges fairly effortlessly. With frenzy charges, I can now shoot big lightning spears, deal all the damage, and pretty much run through my maps. But it's 2025, guys. It's 2025, Jesus Christ. Sorry, what? Anyways, we have Roas now that can run for us. I actually didn't like the idea of having a Roa mount which costs 60 spirit, nor was I a big fan of having to hunt down a good beast to make it become my companion with the Tame Beast skill gem. After playing a bit though, the Roa is better and simpler to use compared to the Tame Beast thing. It's just effortless. Still, if you get thrown off of your Roa, you get heavy stunned. And that is pretty much a death sentence. A simple change I would like to see is if I didn't take a single hit since 6 seconds on my Roa, the heavy stun meter on the bottom left slowly goes down. Would be a neat change. A few things now to the story of the endgame. There is actually kind of a story now. A lot of new lore and a bunch of new interactions with NPCs really add to the experience. Clearly not finished, but a lot smoother now and really tries to push you along, getting you to understand what's going on and happening. For example, if you have done an expedition in a map, then Danik will give you a tablet for expedition. Same goes for breach content, which afterwards in your hideout you can talk to Katsuli for a breach tablet. So there is a trigger in the game when you finished an encounter, an NPC kind of gives you a vague explanation, but then also gives you an item that lets you do more of said content. If a new player enjoyed the whole breach thing, now they got a 100% chance to get the tablet to do more of said content. It's great. Moving on to Doriani's place in the endgame, which has also been stepped up. He is definitely a major player now, letting you know that there are precursor towers, what they could mean, and corrupted nexuses that you should be hunting down to figure things out. This fleshes out the endgame storyline, or actually adds one, because it was really missing in 0.1. Glad to already see it in this patch. Speaking of corrupted nexuses, they are really cool. The areas on the Atlas, the monsters, which are the scourge beyond the enemies, and then the bosses, which are the bosses we have seen in PoE 1 now for the past years. All is great. Glad to see the content being improved, but then GGG went a step above, and if you do defeat the boss, you cleansed the area thanks to Doriani using his magic, whatever the heck. And now, things get whack. The wackiest thing is this. What the fuck is that? The cleansed areas are probably my favorite areas visually, but gameplay-wise, they need some work. Same for the corrupted areas. Cleansed areas on the endgame map have new modifiers that I can't read. It really needs a new hue or color, depending on where they came from. Some modifiers from towers / tablets should look different compared to corrupted or cleansed area modifiers. Beside the modifiers that I cannot read again, I really enjoy the enemies. They are just interesting to fight and makes me step back a bit and pause before I jump in and die. Additionally, there can be obelisks that spawn or create themselves in front of you that give you a really strong buff and increased rarity for a few seconds. This is a cool step into the right direction. I want them to matter a lot more though, and be better, or just in general have a longer buff. Right now, they are really big, really block your view, and are kind of worse than the Eldritch Altas from PoE1. I don't want them to be the same, nor do I think the system can be copy-pasted, but we'll see how these obelisks get improved over the next few patches. Moving on to Azmerian Wisps, which are a good addition to the game and far better than the Tormented Spirits from PoE1. First off, from a visual standpoint, they are gorgeous. To be fair, I am playing in 4K on an OLED monitor on a high-end gaming PC that costs twice the amount of my first car. Still, visuals aside,
they should definitely be sped up.
They're also really whack and troll you by slowing down and then really speeding up. I swear to God. I can only compare it to someone who walks on the sidewalk in front of you, but is just barely too slow, and you also really can't get around them right now. That's what wisps feel like sometimes. It's the whole follow an NPC in a video game that are just barely slower than your running speed, but faster than your walking speed. It's like, why are we doing this? For some of you that don't know, you go into a circle, obviously it's an ARPG, and activate the wisp, which then follows a path towards the next rare. Problem is, if you get a wisp on one side of the map and you missed a single rare on the other side of the map, it will go there. And you will have to follow it. One thing they could try is to think of how rares spawn during the random area generation. They could spawn multiple rares closer-ish together and try to fit in the wisp somewhat in the middle. I just don't want to call an Uber to get to the other side of Mire to influence a single rare. That's all I care about. Rogue Exiles. I encountered my first Rogue Exile in Act 1 Cruel right after the first town, which afterwards I encountered a few more Rogue Exiles throughout my campaign playthrough, but I didn't really receive a major upgrade. Fighting them though is always interesting, and they are just a really good addition to the game. They were a bit overtuned when it comes to life, classic, but that got fixed already. In the endgame, I did choose the Atlas nodes, but in my few hours of mapping with it, I didn't really encounter any large number of Rogue Exiles, nor did I find any good loot. Maybe it really works in tier 15 and tier 16 maps? Who knows? But that node that makes them have 100% unique jewelry, I'm just saying, Headhunter. It's going to happen. Definitely. Please believe. I'm not smoking that weed, I'm smoking that copium. I have to come clean, guys. I have been struggling with an addiction for the past few days now. I lack the strength to say no. I just couldn't stop myself from gambling, and I lost everything. I threw all my gold into the grinder, which got me a level 20 uncut skill champion skill! Moving on to unique maps, I'm just moving on now. They can sometimes appear across the endgame and are usually quite different from what you're used to. I explored the Viridian Wildwood, which is affliction related for the PoE1 players that have played that league back in the early 2000s. Or at least it feels like it was that long ago. The monolith area was interesting and a bit large, with not too many enemies, but you do get quite a few bosses, which was pretty cool. It also looks nice. The Silent Cave is an essence-focused unique map and was neat, if I didn't suck ass at it. And Fractured Lake is amazing. If you want to know my thoughts about it and all the lore behind it that I think that might be happening now, I'll leave a link to my VOD to that specific moment down below. It's chef's kiss. Like, go check it out. As you may have noticed, I did enjoy 0.2 from the beginning until the very end, and even after all these patches. It's just great. But if you're still struggling, then let's talk about some tips that might help you out. First off, I picked up everything during the campaign for a very long time. My inventory was always full after an area or two, and I sold everything, including the rares, for gold. In the cruel difficulty, I started to disenchant rares, but still sold most gear for gold. If you use a weapon, which, everyone does, please upgrade it regularly. Boots with movement speed are nice, but don't gamble for them if your damage is low. If you notice that you have very low damage or very low defense, maybe you're overlooking something. If you don't like following guides, I understand that, but you then have only one option, which is to sit down, read everything, and, try to understand it. If that isn't your thing, sometimes it's not for me either, then I still suggest you look into one of the many league starters on Mobalytics, Maxroll, or PoE Vault. Links down below. Now, if you finally found a way to comfortably get through the story and entered Endgame, here are a few things. First, don't run higher tiers of Waystones if you feel like you're dying a lot. It's really not worth it. Take it slow, run 5 lower tiers, level up a few times instead of running higher tiers and dying twice each area. Second, if you can comfortably kill map bosses, then do them more often, as they will drop you a Waystone 1 tier higher than the Waystone you used. So if you run a tier 5 Waystone on an area with a boss, he should give you at least 1 tier 6 Waystone. Use that to your advantage to get to higher tiers of maps. Third, for the last tip, maybe don't read into the whole negativity that is surrounding the game. Big game releases really riles people up, and negativity floats to the top. I highly recommend stepping back a bit from social media, or at least certain places on the internet that are a bit more toxic. Keep enjoying the game as long as you want to. And in general, give GGG a solid work week like I did myself with this video. I knew they will fix a lot of issues, and surprise, they are doing a lot. Just let them cook next time. In conclusion, Path of Exile 2 Dawn of the Hunt is better than 0.1. I would not want to play 0.1 now after having played 0.2. That is an improvement. This version of PoE 2 is already better, and thus Dawn of the Hunt is good. Wait, hold up. Okay. Really? Apparently, Sacred Water in Trial of Sekima still sounds like the gold coins from Sanctum. Unplayable. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, subscribe, and don't forget to stay hydrated, gamers.